أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد وسلم. We give all praise to Allah. We thank Him for His countless blessings in our lives. We testify that none deserves our worship except Allah. He is one and only. This is to welcome each and every one of us to the 7th annual summer conference with the theme, The Big Challenge. We are taking a very big challenge, inshallah, today. And this is one of the several segments of the special package today. This is the panel discussion. And online right now, already have notable people who will be discussing with us, who will be telling us a lot of things, sharing experiences, parents and speakers. The focus, inshallah, will be more of child upbringing, parents and children relationship. Permit me to once again remind us that we have a big package: sisters session, the brothers session, the family, bringing everyone together. We've been able to look at the Black history, health, the youth, and adults. So you are actually at the right place. Today, we are rubbing minds right now for the next 1.5 hours or so. I'll make it very straightforward now as I welcome our speakers, inshallah. The first on the list is our father, Fadilat Sheikh Professor Moshood Adebayo Baderi, who is a seasoned academician, a professor of laws from the School of Oriental and African Studies, SOAS University here in London, where he has been teaching for the past 13 years. He taught at the University of Nottingham, the University of West of England, Bristol, the University of Southampton, and Brunel University, London. He is also the resident Islamic consultant at the Old Kent Road Mosque and Islamic Cultural Center here in London. Professor Moshood Adebayo Baderi is fondly called Daddy by a lot of people in the community because of his fatherly roles in their lives or in our lives. Yes, he is a teacher of teachers, an amiable mentor to all. Daddy will, inshallah, be discussing parenting support for our children as they go through challenges of bullying and racism from the Islamic perspective. Ahlan wa sahlan. I'd like to just say salam alaikum before I bring in other speakers. Salam alaikum, sir.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thanks for having me.
Alhamdulillah, likewise, I have my brother here. I saw his face briefly. Ustaz Mustafa Briggs. He's a graduate of Arabic and International Relations from the University of Westminster. His dissertation focused on Arabic literature and literacy in West Africa. Brother Mustafa Briggs started an MA in translation at SOAS, specializing in Arabic and Islamic texts before going on to Al-Azhar University in Cairo, Egypt, where he is currently pursuing another degree in Islamic studies and Arabic. He rose to international acclaim for his project, Beyond Bilal, Black History in Islam lecture series, which saw him explore and uncover the deep-rooted relationship between Islam and Black history. It's indeed beyond Bilal. Brother Mustafa Briggs, inshallah, will be looking at bullying and racism among the youths. Ahlan wa sahlan. You want to say salam alaikum, Brother Mustafa?
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah, marhaban. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, everyone.
Wa
Thank you
alaikum
for
salam.
having me. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. The third person will be Dr. Hajia Rashida Adams Ojugbele. Her PhD is in early childhood development, and she has a certificate in everyday parenting from Yale University. She is the CEO of Treasured Sprouts Care Consulting and Niger Port in South Africa. She worked directly with parents, children, and their teachers for over a decade. Sister Dr. Rashida Adams Ojugbele has a very special interest in working with children who are vulnerable. She will be talking, inshallah, today on building a healthy relationship between parents and child. Assalamu alaikum, my sister.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alhamdulillah, Amin. And inshallah, the fourth speaker is Haja Kafaya Adelekon Ni Abdusalam. She is the founder of Kafaya Consultancy Limited, a payroll consultancy business, Homuka Institute for Moms, and the convener of Authentically Me Summit. She is a certified transformation and personal development coach, relationship counselor, a neuro-linguistic practitioner, parenting expert and coach, a public speaker, writer, and consultant. Sister Haja Kafaya Adelekon Abdusalam has 4 children aged between 18 and 29. So she will also be talking as a parent from experience, inshallah. Her vision is to help build the Muslim woman, help her build and tap into her authentic self by embracing and defining herself for deliberate purpose through Islamic values. Inshallah, she has appeared on several programs on Islam Channel's Women's AM show. She has written many articles and featured as guest on many others. Aja Kafaya has a degree in business IT and a master's in business and payroll management with over 28 years of experience in payroll implementation, managerial and leadership roles. Inshallah, she will be looking at the psychological impact of bullying and racism on our youth and children and how we can help out. Assalamu alaikum, sir, ma'am.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Well, the table is set. I'll kick off by just informing the speakers that you have about 5 to 10 minutes each in that sequence. After that, we throw the discussion open for some of our parents who are already online for their discussion. I'll start off with Fadilat Sheikh, Professor Mashoud Badiri. Your time starts now, sir. You have the podium.
Hassan. Thank you so much. I thank the Muslim Forum for inviting me. And I think this is a very important topic, the big challenge, and all the issues relating to parent and children relationship. Permit me to start by greeting every one of us. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Now, parent-children relationship in Islam, this is what the general topic that I've been. I think it's a very big challenge, really. That is, parent-children relationship is a very, very big challenge. I mean, if we do not handle it well, the consequences actually also create bigger challenges. And I'll be relating it to bullying. Bullying, I mean, is one of the consequences of, not creating a proper parent-child relationship. One, when we talk about bullying, we have those who bully and then the victims of bullying. So both parties are usually a result of an improper parent-child relationship because the home is the first school of the child. So it's very, very important. Now, obviously, in that relationship, the parent is expected to play the major role, responsibility, has the major responsibility in that regard. And this is evidence in various parts of the Quran and the Sunnah, because I'll briefly point to, the Islamic perspectives of it. Every Muslim envisages that their children should be a pride for them. When they are alive and even when they are gone. And nobody wants to see their children being a bully or being bullied, So, for example, Allah describes the believers as those who say, وَالَّذِينَ يَقُولُونَ رَبَّنَا هَبْ لَنَا مِنْ أَزْوَاجِنَا وَذُرِّيَّاتِنَا قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ. They pray for children who will really be a pride for them, but it doesn't come automatically. We need to work for it. Although there are some few cases whereby children who do not even have good parental care might come up to be good children. But generally, you need to work for it, because you find the evidences variously in the Quran. Allah says in Surah An-Nisa, yusikumullahu bi awladikum, that Allah fi awladikum. Allah, enjoins you in relation to your children. Although that ayah is specifically about inheritance, but generally Allah enjoins us about our children in relation to, how we look after them. We find many ayahs in the Quran, protect yourself and your household from the hellfire. And the Prophet mentioned this as well in his hadith, that you are all shepherds. Allah says, you should know, every one of you is a shepherd, and you are responsible for your shepherd. And he specifically mentioned, he said, the father has responsibility over the people of his house. And he said, similarly, even the mother also has a responsibility over the children. Now, you see, one thing, a lot of the time, when we see this, especially amongst Nigerian folk, people overemphasize sometimes the responsibility of the child to respect and pray for the parents. We usually talk about this in Surah Al-Isra. And then we go, but if we say, Allah said, don't worship any other person apart from him, and do good to your parents. And when you are in a place of, in a place of authority, lower your wings for them and say, oh Allah, bless my children, bless my parents as they reared me when I was a child. A lot of the time we only look at oh Allah bless them, but there's a condition, as they they reared me. For your child to be able to pray for you, you have to be able to have reared them in a proper way. And for the children to be able to have good character, you need to have reared them so tarbiyah, training or rearing of children, is very, very important. If it goes wrong, bullies can come out of it, and also, victims, children who do not have the confidence actually to stand out on their own, who will be succumbing to bullying. Many or most of, Muslim scholars have identified about 7 ways, 7 important main ways by which we raise children. And if we take care of all those 7, you find out that it will take care. We may not have bullies in community. We may not have people who are not strong in community. Because of time, I'll just go over it very quickly. And perhaps maybe when we discuss, we'll be able to go a little bit more in detail with it. There are a lot of books on this, from an Islamic point of view. And most authors look at these 7 areas. Now, when we are training our children, when we are rearing children, the first one is what they call mas'uliyya to tarbiyatul imaniyya. That is, parents have a responsibility of faith training, faith education and training. And the truth is that not only Islam, if you look at all the heavenly religions, there isn't any religion that will encourage bullying, in the sense that, they will, because it's an evil. And Islam specifically, you find that, we need to train our children with faith right from the beginning. And there are various ayats in the Quran on this one. Now, for example, if you look in Surah Tur, Quran chapter 2, verse 21, Allah says, وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَاتَّبَعْتُهُمْ ذُرِّيَّتُهُمْ بِإِيمَانٍ أَلْحَقْنَا بِهِمْ ذُرِّيَّتَهُمْ. Allah says, those who train their children with faith from the beginning, we will join their children with them, even in paradise, because that is, they will follow the faith. So it's quite important. The Quran also said, command your family, command your family with praying and stay on it. Now, faith leads to, a person having values of not, bullying, and also having faith in Allah in that regard. We could talk about this a little bit more. The second one is tarbiyatul khuluqiyya. That is, we also need to train or bring our children with good character. We see what Allah said about the Prophet. You have a very good character. And when we train children about character, what the Quran tells us, you teach them about dignity. That every human being has dignity, you know. And if you look at it, there are provisions in the Quran that says that don't let one community laugh at another, and also don't call yourself bad names, the various ways by which people bully. So if you train your children with this, I mean, they grow up to know that, well, this is not how to behave. The other one is tarbiyah to jismiya. Yeah, that is physical training. You know, you need to really train them physically. There's an hadith of the Prophet that says that al-mu'min al-qawi khayru wa ahabba ila Allah min al-mu'min al-da'if. That is, the believer who is strong is better and most beloved by Allah. If you train, the Prophet said that, I mean, we should train our children to be strong. You know, that is good health, strength, and confidence. If you train your children in this way, they build confidence, you know, and I mean, the issue of bullying, they might be able to really deal with it. The other one is aqliya, tarbiyat al-aqliya. That is intellectual training and intellectual, I mean, wisdom and knowledge. You know, it's very, very important. We know there are various verses in the Quran talking about this. The fifth one is, I mean, tarbiyat al-nafsiyya. That is, I mean, the soul, training the soul. We know what Yusuf said, you know, وَمَا أُبْرِيَ نَفْسِي إِنَّ النَّفْسَ لَأَمَارَةٌ بِالسُّوءِ. That is the heart, the soul, essentially, if you do not train it properly, it moves a person to evil of, I mean, bullying and things like that. So we need to, I mean, put all this in context. Then the sixth one is, I mean, tarbiyatul ishma'iyya, social upbringing. You know, letting people know that, for example, that ayah of the Quran, Inna Allah ya'muru bil adli wal ihsan wa ita'i zil qurba. That is goodness in society, not doing evil in society. This is very, very important. Then the seventh one, tarbiyatul jinsiyya, that is humanistic education. Look at that ayah whereby Allah say that, I mean, yeah, you are nas, inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa untha. We have created you all from one male and one female. I mean, for people to be able to recognize and respect humanity. Now, if you relate this to bullying, as I said, one of the consequences of improper parent-children relationship is the evil of bullying, which is very rampant in many of our societies today. You find physical, psychological, online bullying. It could be based on grounds of race, tribe, sex, age, status, or position. People do, I mean, they find people who are vulnerable and they want to bully them. Now, if you look at bullies, often bullies themselves, if you look at them, perhaps maybe they did not enjoy a proper parent-child relationship of their lives. Then the deficiencies in their life is often expressed through bullying others who they find vulnerable either at school or at work or in society. So bullies usually will often need counseling. And if Muslims, an Islamic reorientation along these 7 types of training identified earlier. Now, if you look at the bully also who suffers from bullying, often they are individuals who, due to improper parent-child relationship, have lost some self-confidence. You know, they have lost some self-confidence, they don't have courage, they have lost strength to rebuff the act of bullying. So parents, I mean, have a responsibility to be conscious, you know, because it is there. Bullying is a fact. I'm an academic, I see it all the time. It is important, I'm timing myself here, I still have 10 seconds. We need to be conscious of our children's attitude, you know, reconciling them. If they try to recoil into themselves, we know something is wrong. If they lack interaction or if they fall short of interaction, we know something is wrong. Hesitation to go to school, we may know something is wrong. You know, through the training, we have to become their friends, give them the opportunity to discuss and we need to discuss actually the subject of bullying with them and let them know that, I mean, it is an evil, not acceptable, and that it is right to talk about it. You know, that they should talk about it, they should not bottle it in. So if we have good parent-teacher relationship, I think that, I mean, it will really be important and it will be helpful actually to stop creating bullies, to help people from being bullies, and also to help victims of bullying. So inshallah, if there are any questions or any issues to discuss after this, we'll look at that, I mean, during the questions. Jazakumullahu khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Well, thank God. It's said and well said. I'm not here to score the prof, inshallah. But my note is very, very well taken, inshallah. We go straight to Brother Mustafa Briggs, who will be looking at bullying and racism. Is there any connection between the two? The stage is yours.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi alhamdulillah. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala, alhamdulillah. In terms of bullying and racism, I would say first of all, that as the professor already expounded upon, bullying comes in many different forms. And people usually use people's vulnerabilities or people's not, I wouldn't say negative attributes, but not so strong attributes in order to pick on them and bully them. And in certain instances and in certain situations, the bullying then can be racial bullying and it can be discriminatory bullying. So for example, we can see young Black Muslim children who go into not just Muslim, but even non-Muslim spaces. They might be picked on for the color of their skin. And unfortunately, a lot of this is inherited from the parents, as the professor had also expounded upon. So you can see, for example, just personally, a lot of children I know, African children that had gone into madrasas or Arabic schools or even in school, and they're met with discrimination from Asian children or Arab children. Children, as the professor also had explained earlier, and I think he's the best person to talk about this subject, children pick up or inherit a lot of their characteristics and a lot of their ideologies and the way they see the world from the way they're raised in their houses. So if they see racism in their houses, if they overhear their parents talking about a specific type of people in a specific way, then they will now then begin to look at those people in that particular way. So for example, you might hear parents say, oh, these Black people, such and such and such, stay away from Black kids, etc. And then the children will now carry that into their schools and carry that into the way they behave. And it's very interesting. So I remember, for example, just very recently, I was invited by, I have a friend of mine who, he's Pakistani and his wife is Russian, and his children grew up in Russia, but they grew up in a way where he didn't, obviously I'm one of his closest friends, he's not a racist person and his wife isn't racist, so they grew up showing them examples of different kinds of people. So I remember, for example, he came and he was showing me his toys. And then he was showing me that his favorite toy was the Black Panther tool. Watching TV, he wanted to watch the Black Panther movie. That was his favorite movie. And he didn't see any kind of racial discrimination or racial differencing between me and him, or between him and
I don't know if it's only from my side. Brother Mustafa, I think we have some issues.
like his hero was a Black character and he was a non-Black child. Whereas that's something that was very rare, I could say maybe 20 years ago, 30 years ago, due to the change.
Assalamu alaikum, Brother Mustafa. I think we're having some issues with the connection. I may have to call in another speaker. I'm sorry.
And the overall tolerance,
Brother Mustafa, are you with me?
and love for other people's cultures.
Assalamu alaikum, Brother Mustafa. Well, I think the points are well made. Can you hear me, Brother Mustafa? We are having some issues with the connection. However, I think I've been able to pick up some of the points you made. I wonder if we could just go straight to the next speaker. You surely have some time later on for other contributions, inshallah. May I call on Sister Dr. Rashida Adams Ojugbele for 10 minutes, please.
Naam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. I thank you and everyone for having me around. I also want to thank our father for the beautiful presentation that he had made. I want to say that when we talk about parent-child relationship, one of the things we should pay attention to is the issue of communication. And I will begin my talk by pointing our attention to the aspect of the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us about the conversation between Ibrahim and his son Ismail. In Quran chapter 37, Surah As-Saffat, from verse 100 to 102, Allah relates the conversation that happened between Ibrahim and his son Ismail. And he told us when Ibrahim begged Allah for a righteous son. In the next verse, that is verse 101, Allah says, so we gave him the good news that he would have a patient son. In the next verse, Allah relates to us that when the boy was old enough to walk with his father, Ibrahim said, oh my son, I have seen myself sacrificing you in a dream. What do you think? I want us to note that aspect when Ibrahim asked his son that question, what do you think? And he responded, that Father, do as you are commanded, and God's willing, you will find me steadfast. I would like to draw attention to how Ibrahim told his son about the dream that he had and how Ismail responded. We have a host of lessons to learn from this, but I'll be mentioning a few of those lessons. First, there's the level of communication. Second, there has been a series of explaining of his mission, his belief in Allah before the incidents. Third, there is the level of trust between Ibrahim and Ismail, his son. And that was why when the father told him about the dream that he had, he did not hesitate, but he encouraged his father to do as he has been commanded. The fourth lesson is that he believed in his father's mission and was ready to be by him, irrespective of the situation. Fifth, their conversation actually shows us that there is love, there is compassion. When we read Ismail's response to his father, he said, my beloved father, do as you are commanded, and God's willing, you would find me steadfast. The sixth point I would like to point out is that there's a high level of sacrifice in the household of Ibrahim. Both his son and wife, they knew that sacrifice meant giving up things that we love, things that are valuable to us. And that was why when this issue of dreamer sacrificing Ismail was related to the son and the wife, they did not object Ibrahim. They encouraged him to do what Allah has commanded him. My dear mothers, my dear fathers, in faith, how can we relate or how can we rate our relationship with our children? All these elements that we have pointed out are all these elements present in our relationship with our children. With that being said, the next question we would ask ourselves is, how do we ensure a healthy relationship with our children? How do we also ensure that our children are nurtured in an environment that impacts positively on their overall development? Our roles as parents is to nurture a whole child. When we say whole child, it means we need to pay attention to the physical, like our father said, to the emotional, to the cognitive, the spiritual, and the social development of our children. This would actually ensure that the child receives the needed attention. When attention is paid to all these different areas, the child would receive the stimulation that is needed right from a very young age. To build a healthy relationship with our children would help us to prepare or to build a strong foundation for them. And this would help them in their personality, it would help them in the choices they make, and it would also help them in the behavior of, as in their behavior. And this requires from us a conscious and planned effort. When we talk about child upbringing, when we talk about building a healthy relationship, it is not something that we just do without planning. It is not something that we just do without being conscious. We are talking, the era that we have now has moved to the era of being conscious about the way we parent our children, because the society is flooded with all sort of immorality. And because Allah has said we are the best community ever evolved for mankind, we need to be conscious and pay attention to their upbringing. Because when we do not, we have people that are waiting. They don't need to be paid. We have the different social medias that are waiting to train them. And in the end, we might not like the results of such training. Parenting today has gone through a host of paradigm shifts, and different experts are coming up with different parenting theories. They are giving different parenting tips, and they are telling us different ways to upbring our children. One thing that I believe in is that the family situation that we find ourselves will determine what parenting style to use or the way to go about upbringing our children. The situations of family today differs. So what works for parent A or family A might not work for the other family. So we need to know specifically the situation of our family. We need to know what we are going through. We need to understand the nature of our children. This would help us to be able to help them better to develop optimally. As parents, it is important to understand that children are unique. No children are the same. And the fact that our children needs, their ability, their capability, and wants vary, we need to relate with each of them based on the aforementioned. Today, parents relate with their children as an object or property that is owned by them. So we don't even try to see or to listen to them. We don't want them to have a say in issues that concern them. We only want them to do what we want them to do. Today, we are parents that feels, okay, I wanted to be a doctor, but for one reason or the other, I'm not able to be a doctor. Inshallah, all my children will be doctors. And our parenting, all our effort is geared towards ensuring that our children become doctors. While we are doing this, I'm not saying it is wrong, but have we ever stopped to ask, what exactly are my children's inner needs? What is our definition of success? Evidence from research in the field of developmental science and child psychology has shown that strong parent relationship or the bond during the early years of their development, it keeps them with the basic skills they need to survive. And this also prepares them to better handle challenges life throws at them. So when we're talking about parent-child relationship, it is not something that we are going to start today. We build on it, we start from the very young age, we build on it as we go on, we move on in life. Other studies have also shown that children's development involves a highly responsive and reciprocal interactional process. There has to be interaction. The interaction has to be reciprocal. It has to be from both sides. The situation we find ourselves today is such that we hardly have time to sit to talk with our children. The routine is the same in most homes. Children wake up in the morning, they go to school, they come back, they do their assignment, their parents are out. They need to fend for the family. They need to find a way of ensuring that the family needs are met. But in the midst of all this, we need to find time to sit with our children. Another important thing that we need to know to do is that the poor or absence of all the things that I've said may result in a host of problems, and that is what we are seeing today. We do not have time, there's no communication. We are seeing different cases of children today who are deviant in oral ramification. We have seen children who live in the home, yet they are strangers. We have seen children who have kept secrets for years from their parents, and they stay in the same home. We have seen cases of children who have been abused in one way or the other, yet their parents are not aware of it. When there's lack of communication, when we do not create time, these are the resultant effects. We have missed out on important milestones in our children's life. Parenting them for success without paying attention to their emotional needs is one of the reasons for the increase in the decadence we see today in the society. What are the things that...
Can we wrap up now, please?
Sorry?
Can we wrap up? Can we wrap up now?
Yes, please. Yes, I'm doing that. So we have a host of things that we can do, but I'll just mention a few to right the wrongs. Number one, as our father said, we need to really pray, because sometimes you would wonder that with all your efforts, why are we having this? Why are things like this? Why are my children like this? We need to really pray and pray for Allah's guidance in our parenting. Then we need to start early, like I mentioned. We need to create time for our children. We need to ensure that as a family, we must accustom our children from a very young age to a group session. We ensure that we avoid any kind of distraction during this time, because sometimes the psychological and the emotional care for our children is more important than providing them with material supplies. What our children need from us is our presence and not our present. May Allah make it easy for us as parents to bring our children in the best of ways. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It is our presence and not our presence, inshallah. Thank you very much, Dr. Ojubile, for that beautiful one. Inshallah, I think that takes us to the next issue we'll be looking at right now, and that will be led by Sister Hajia Kafaya Adelekon Ani Abdusalam. She'll be looking at the psychological impacts of bullying and racism on our youths, that's our children, and how can we really help? Is there any help at all?
Salaam alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Okay, can you hear? Sorry, can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Okay, so A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Jazakallah khair for inviting me to just give this short speech about the psychological impacts of bullying and the effects it has on our children. Now, I'll just tell you, and I've only got 10 minutes, I'm going to try and keep this as short as possible. Just going to tell you two stories quickly. One, I'm not going to, and I'll start now. So my daughter says to me, I am not going to school today. Sometimes as parents, when our children say that to us, and I know there's lots of parents that are listening to this, I just want you to not answer now, but you can talk about it later on, is that when your child probably says to you, I'm not going to school, what do we do? Are we vigilant? Do we notice if there's something going wrong? So I listened to my daughter because that was odd. And then I found out that she was being bullied by her best friend at school. This is when she was in primary school. Another scenario, my son, when he was in secondary school, he came home, because my children went to school in a predominantly white area. So there were only a handful of Black people in school. So they did face a lot of racism in school. But the school was supportive, they handled it well. So my son comes home crying. No, actually, I picked him up and he was crying. He sat in the car, he was very quiet. Another thing we need to notice, when the children, all of a sudden they're quiet, they're withdrawn, of what's going on. He said, "I'm very sorry, Mom. I did not mean to do that." And I said, "You did not mean to do what?" So he said, his best friend has always been bullied in school and the teachers are not doing anything about it. So I, pushed the boy and he fell and he hurt himself. And they had to call in the ambulance and things like that. And then, I picked it up with the school. I didn't dismiss it and I didn't tell him off, but I wanted to get to understand what happened. Sometimes as African parents, we're very dismissive. We might push those things away. Now, most of the health professionals, so that's just those two things. And I'm sure most of the parents can relate with this. I just want to, I'm talking more about practical things. So I just like to look at Yusuf alayhi salam. When he had a dream, what did he do? He came rushing to his father and he was saying, "Ya abiti, ya abiti," and he related the dream to his father. I want to ask the parents who are here today, if your children have an issue, can you actually put your hand on heart and say, "My children are going to come to me"? And these are all questions, I don't have answers to it. I just want us just to steer some of these in our soul so we can start thinking about these psychological issues that our children will go through. So Yusuf alayhi salam, he has been nurtured, he's got tarbiyah. So he knew, he had that relationship with his father. Anything goes wrong, I'm going straight to my dad. Right. So moving on, I just wanted to say those few things so that we can just have an idea of what's going on. And how these things can happen. Now, looking at the psychological impact, I'd like to say with bullying, whether it's in terms of racism or whatever type of bullying our children go through, most of the key findings, now I looked at some of the results, which are really staggering. And most of these figures are telling us that, well, first, the health professionals are saying to us that most of bullying is as a result of bad parenting. And I know most of the speakers before me have kind of alluded to this. Now, again, I'm sorry to say this, but this is what most of the research that I briefly looked into have said, that it's as a result of bad parenting. And some children could be bullied at home. So whether the child is being bullied or whether they are the bully, because sometimes our children could actually be the bully without us realizing this. And that is because this is learned behavior. They've been bullied at home by relatives, by friends. They could be, or their own siblings or relatives. And then they actually have this learned behavior, which they take into their own world and start treating other people that way. Now, the health professionals are increasingly concerned over the potential damage and the long-lasting impact of bullying. Okay, and why are they bothered? Because with the psychological impact of bullying is something that's on the inside, it's internal, and because the person's integrity is weakened, it leads to poor physical health. So these things are on the inside, they're not on the outside. It's not going to be immediately obvious, and this is why they're worried. I'm also a therapist and I counsel people, and I have 3 clients I'm dealing with right now. Most of their issues stem from their childhood, which was very traumatic, very stressful, and they were bullied. And these things have lasting impacts on these people. So some of the, and I'll just quickly, just for time, say some of the impact, some of the type of psychological effects that we could see. Some of them, most of them is like your child will be emotionally withdrawn. They might sometimes not want to go to school, or sometimes they're more ill than they should be. Today they might have a headache, tomorrow they'll have a cough, they can't get out of bed. But it's not that, they are scared of going to school because they have, when they're being bullied, they're depressed, they're sad, they're lonely. You find that they're socially isolated, they don't want to have friends, they're shy, low self-esteem, anxiety, their confidence is really low. And some other things that you might notice as a parent, what could happen is they would not eat properly. And there could also be a dip in their academic performance. And there's also some of the studies have actually said that they're psychiatric disorders. They could become psychotic, you know, they have schizophrenia, they have all these, you know, all these things, very bad depression because of this being bullied. And whether they're being bullied or they are the bully, I'm actually saying here that these psychological problems take them both into adulthood. Now, sometimes these psychological behavior is due to them not being, they're ashamed. They don't want to tell anyone what's going on, and they just deal with things themselves. You find that most of these teenagers as well, there's something called self-harm. Lots of them harm themselves. And this, when I worked with one of the charities, most of the teenagers between ages 15 to 29, as a result of bullying, they were cutting themselves. There was a lot of self-harm as well. So these are some of the things that we can look out for. There's a sense of insecurity. They don't feel secure around themselves, around people. You find that another psychological impact of being bullied is this lasting emotional impact, because it's damaging their emotional well-being. And you find that their self-image is damaged. And this is what takes them into adulthood, that they begin to have problems with their friends, with their colleagues at work. Sometimes being bullied, they get shouted at, or they could become someone who's very angry all the time and they shout back at people. So they have problems with marriages and keeping relationships. One important thing that I would like to mention is that suicide. So some of the things, again, that I've been looking at is saying that suicide is one of the major issues of bullying. And that I know that lots of teenagers, again, the studies in America and the studies in the UK have shown that bullying is the third major cause of death in children ages between 15 to 29. Now that is very, very worrying and something for us to really be worried about as parents, I would say. So the American Academy of Experts in Traumatic Stress, they've also said that bullying also, they've confirmed that bullying causes long-lasting damage. And they're saying that, you know, when people get bullied, they could be physically attacked. So they said it's not those physical wounds or things that left, or those scars left on the children, that's the problem. What the problem is those lasting emotional effects that are on the inside. And these are the things that I said will translate into these people becoming very depressed when they grow up and become depressed. They're always suffering from panic attacks. They don't trust people, and they themselves will become bullies, because statistics also says that those that have been bullied are more likely, twice as likely to become bullies themselves. I'd just like to just state a couple of few more things around these. So I've mentioned quite a few of these symptoms, and there's plenty more, but for time, I'll just keep it at those that I've mentioned. Now, the Centre of Disease Control and Prevention warns that health effects of bullying are so severe that, you know, we need to prevent some prevention plans. And they have actually confirmed that it can result into suicide as well. Now, I'm just going to quickly read some numbers. So some key findings states that 1.5 million young people have been bullied within the past year. Now, this is a study I got from something, it's a study titled Ditch the Label. This was produced back in 2016. And actually research shows that these figures are on the rise. So nothing has really changed. If anything, it's getting worse. 145,000, it says, people are bullied every day. And people who are bullied are twice as likely to bully others. Twice as many boys as girls. So this result says 60% of males versus 31% of females get bullied. Anyway, and these bullies could be for various reasons, like we said. It could be racism due to their color, they get sidelined, and someone had mentioned that earlier on. and they, especially our children that are being bullied due to racism, they suffer a lot of social anxiety, and you find that they don't have friends, or they just don't want to go with friends. They experience a lot of depression. And these results say, again, 33% of those being bullied have suicidal thoughts. And we know lots of children have gone on to commit suicide. Now, just checking the time. How many minutes do I have? So I can just quickly mention a few things on how we can help with this.
Just very few, just very few.
It's very few. Okay, so quickly, I want to say something, but I'm not going to talk about it. I've done, if anyone wants to, any parents who wants to speak to me about this, there's something called digital parenting. So I delivered a talk on this. And digital parenting is to do with computers, you know, as if it's not enough for us to look after our children and the normal day-to-day stuff we have. There's also what we call cyberbullying, and that is really picking up at a fast rate. And again, all these symptoms I've mentioned happen as well. But again, for cyberbullying, I think, like I said, it's a topic for another day, but we should make sure that our computer software at home is safe and we're putting all the right controls there to help our children. Just a couple of things that I'll mention, because I've got no time to go on to mention the ways that we can help curb some of these, you know, if our children are going through racial bullying or any other type of bullying, how can we help, or how can we identify this? One, like the sister said, make sure you have that relationship with your child. Probably spend 10 minutes with them every day when they come back from school. Ask them what's happened today at school. Ask them about their friends. Ask open questions. Don't ask closed questions. You say, how was school today? Your child is definitely going to say to you, fine, it's okay. But it is not okay. You know, when they're not sleeping, find out what's going on. If they say they don't want to go to school, I would go to school with them, speak to their teachers. I just think that open communication between you and the school is really important, and your child, and also within other communities, like in the madrasa as well. So it's not only at home, some of them get abused by their madrasa teacher. So it's these things that we need to look out for when they're not sleeping well, they're not eating well, loss of appetite, they're feeling sad, they don't want to go out with you, they're just hiding in their rooms. And you need to find out what's going on, because sometimes they're threatened by these bullies that if you dare talk about it, you will be in trouble. So I think I'll stop there, inshallah, because I don't want to run over time. So Jazakallah khair for inviting me today.
Alhamdulillah, let me thank you so much. You've actually saved me the stress of coming in before you stopped. Thank you very much. I think we are going further. A lot has been said by our speakers. I wonder if we have parents or participants here who would be very willing to ask questions. Please kindly make use of the Q&A section of the Zoom for your questions. And you can also raise your hands in case you have some contributions, you'll be allowed to speak. I have one hand being raised, Dr. Nima. Okay. Dr. Nima. Is Dr. Nima there?
Yes, I just unmuted myself. Sorry about that. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I just wanted to comment on the aspect that was brought up about when our children say they're bullied, especially when they eventually open up, which, as we know, isn't the earliest thing to happen, or in some cases, not at all. When they do summon the courage and disclose to us, sometimes as parents, either because we don't know what to do about it, or sometimes we have a mentality of, I don't want trouble, just bear with it, just manage. And sometimes it might even be that the child demonstrates an aggression, or something happens in school, which is actually a red flag or a call for help. And when we respond to it, one, we don't show or demonstrate that we actually know our child. And to get to it, that this isn't he or her usual behavior, what could be happening? A lot of times, the first thing we do is to start blaming the child, and two things could happen as a result. One, the child feels completely betrayed, that even you, that is their parent, isn't standing up for them. Secondly, it leads to hopelessness for these children because they just feel, okay, where else can they go? And indeed, a lot of times they struggle to find any other place. That might be their call for help, and we don't get it or we don't do anything about it. There are times when we have to just pick up the ball from there. When we do know there's a problem, please let's not shy away from it. Let us move away from this immigrant mentality of, let's not cause any ripples, or, let's just manage it. And certainly let's not blame these children. Try and imagine what they're going through, because a lot of times we have no clue, we have no idea what they're going through. And then please let us stand up for them. Nobody else can be a better advocate for these children than us. A lot of times, even standing up for them isn't usually enough. We just pray to Allah that may Allah make it enough. But for us not to do it at all, it just makes matters impossible for these children. And that hopelessness can lead to anything. If your child is exhibiting either aggression, which tends to be a lot of times the way the males show these things, or complete withdrawal and depression behavior, which usually the way the girls show it. And it could be either way. If some of the boys withdraw as well, please let us pay attention. Let us know our children and let us stand up for them. One of the ways we can do this is using emails. Please, if it's possible to physically go, that's fine. It's not necessary to go and fight or anything, but show that you are there for your child and you know your rights. Emails are important because they're a trail. They're a visible trail that is there for anybody if there's ever any inquiry. And lots of institutions and people don't want this. So please, if it's in school, let the head teacher escalate it as needed. If it's someone in charge, if it's the head teacher, go there, lay down your issues, and please still send the email, and then reassure your child you do what you can. And then, of course, we continue to pray.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nima, for that.
That.
Alhamdulillah, thank you very much for that intervention. I think Hajia Adilekon has a response for that, right?
I just want to say what this sister, Jazakallah from what she's just said, is just to add a little bit to it, that when my child was being bullied, at school, I actually went to the school, and what she said is very important, that we should not have this mentality that probably I don't want to rock any boats. By going to the school, speaking to the headmaster, they did their investigations. Those children were dismissed from school. They later on found that there were lots of them, and there were lots of other children being bullied. And by going to the school, or by writing, you can write to have your, which I did first, write to have your written evidence. And then when you actually go into the school, I had meetings with teachers, and the summary of that was quite a lot of children were picked up that were dismissed from the school because it came to light that they were bullying other children. So don't hold back as a parent is what I want to say, because you could be helping other children, not only your own. And someone said about defending your children, you would know your children need to know that you're there for them. In those moments of helplessness, in those moments of hopelessness, that's when they will commit these things, like have suicidal thoughts. But you know your child, you know what they're capable of doing. And you should be able to know, not defend, but stand up for what is true, and let your child know that you're there for them and you're supporting them through these difficult times.
Thank you very much for that. We got a couple of parents who will also like to share their experience of parenting with us. Can I start off with Alhaja Khadija Dabiri? If she's there, could she be promoted in as a panelist for our contributions. Every parent called will be having about just 2 minutes each. Alaja Dabiri. Alaja Dabiri, if she's not yet ready, can we have contributions from Brother Shams? Brother Shams. Brother Shams.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
I thank you all, and I thank the organizers. I have a few things to say, and I'm going to be addressing the parents, as parents. Our children have little to contribute to their development. We have most to contribute to their development. Their development, their actions, a lot of it comes as a result of the way we are raising them. So my first point here is the learning parent is the successful parent. Parenting is a continuous learning process. Your parenting style, attitude, and decisions should always be evolving according to your increased knowledge, the experience you are acquiring, your children's age, your children's position, and the environment. A lot of us raise our children the way we were raised. That's a completely different environment, and you're a completely different person. The children you're raising today are completely different from you. So the parenting is an institution where you have no teachers except people who share their experience with you and your own experience. They are your teachers. So we continuously need to develop the ability to unlearn the way we have been trained. Then we need to learn anew, and we also need to relearn again and again so that we are always in tune with the way our children are evolving. You need to unpack your own upbringing because our upbringing is quite good, but there are mistakes in the way we've been raised. So you need to unpack it. Look at the values that came with that upbringing, and then remove the mistakes that came with the upbringing. Some of us don't unpack it. Oh, I was beating 100 strokes, and there I am today. I'm successful. I'm doing well. I turned out well. But the beating is not really what made you. Maybe the values that they imputed in you. So we have to unpack, separate the values from someone else's mistakes and limitations. Now, for parents, please, 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 what you see today in your children is not the finished product. And you need to keep this at the back of your mind. Your children today are not the finished product. So if your children have certain behaviors that you don't like, that's not the finished product. Just continue to manage them, continue to give them the values, the training, they will evolve. If your children are excellent today, that's not the finished product. Don't take it for granted because things change. I remember one of the first meetings I had with some parents in Oxford. Okay, it was this Somalian man who said, my son was memorizing the Quran, reciting the Quran, a very good but quiet. After dinner, he's the one that will take the place and wash it for everybody. He takes the bin out without being told. He was surprised when they called him to school and said, your son is dealing drugs, he's selling drugs. He said, no way, no way. My son who reads the Quran, who is excellent at home, good behavior. He said he was ashamed when they showed him the evidence. And this might be the case. We have, I know a boy who went to university, she cut off relationship with her parents. He went wild in the university. But by the third year, he reconnected back with Islam and is now a good ambassador of Islam. So your children are not the end product. They're not a finished product. You must consistently continue to pray, play with them, be patient with them, okay? Unfortunately, we are ignorant of the society we live in. We think we know, but many of us don't know the society. We're just here working. We don't understand the society. When teachers talk to you, you don't even understand. When they say your child is a bit chatty in the class, you think a bit means, well, just a little problem. No, they've only said a bit It's a big problem. That's why they're telling you. But many of us don't understand. So we need to actually understand what society we live in and how this society is structured.
Thank you
You
very
don't.
much.
Okay. Now, many of us don't know ADHD. We hear it. We hear learning disability. We hear autism. We don't know what it means. And you see this in the way we relate with children at camps, at meetings. You see that you shout at them, yeah, get up there. If I beat you very well, you get sense. Sometimes we don't know these children are what they are dealing with. I spent 1 hour with a child with autism. When I left that family and I was going to my car, I was shedding tears. I wonder how any parent can live with that child every day. You need to go and find out what autism is. And then you will then know that when you see children, you don't just shout at them, you just don't talk down to them, you don't just, treat them anyhow. You need to show some understanding, because you could complicate that child's upbringing, or you could make it better. Now, we also don't know what pressure these children face. We think we faced a different kind of pressure. I went to boarding school, they beat me, they did this, I did it, I carried this. Your pressure is different from your children's pressure. And if I ask you, do you know a Greek chicken and you know the street chicken? If you put the Greek chicken on the street with the street chicken, how long do you think that a Greek chicken will last? It won't last. Your children are like their Greek chicken. And it is not their Greek chicken's fault that it is a Greek. It is a different nature growing up in a different environment. We need to show that understanding. And you need to talk to your children a lot. You train them by training their mind. Train them by training their mind. Don't talk down to them. Don't tell them you don't have time. When they ask you a question, don't shout. Don't shove it down their throat. This is what you need to. Allah says, and that is the answer. No, you must reason. Children raised in this country are taught to reason, but they are taught to reason in a particular way. And you have to also be able to reason to counter that reason. I just don't have time. I could explain to you a very good example about homosexuality when my child asked me, and I thought of different ways I could respond. But again, up to now, they have the good understanding, and it doesn't cause them any problem. But many children, it causes them problem because their parents either, they abuse the homosexuals, they talk down, they do this, and then the children became defensive. They will listen to their teacher, who seem to be more caring, who seem to have a more balanced approach, a more human approach. Whereas our approach is actually the more human, more Muslim approach, but we don't present it very well. Let us just continue to hope and pray to Allah. Don't have any expectation from your children.
Because you are actually not.
Hold on. I know what you're doing. You have to be in good health. And if you put too much expectation on your children, your health will be impacted. But you need to have the good health to be able to be there for your children. Whatever journey they have in life, they will always come back to you if you handle them very well. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much, Brother Shams. I got Dr. Adilokbo here. She's got the next 2 minutes.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam. Sorry, I mixed that gender up.
It's okay. Jazakallah khair. So now I have with me my wife, and we are both going to talk about this issue. But I'll let her go first because she's the mother at home and she understands the children. I do as well, but I think she has more information about this topic than myself.
Dr. Adilopo, please, she needs to speak up louder, please.
Okay, 1 second. Is the volume okay now?
Yes, from you.
Okay.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you very much for the opportunity given to me this evening. I would like to thank the speakers, the panelists who have been speaking on this issue of bullying. According to a longitudinal survey that is carried out between 2013 to 2018 by the Crime Survey for England and Wales, the research found out that bullying statistics among young people indicate that 1 in 6 children reported being bullied in every school.
And this survey showed that physical bullying was 60% among children between the age of 10 to 15 years. And verbal bullying is more common, which is 89% of reported cases, while other cases like other forms of bullying, emotional bullying and the likes is 20%. Why I'm quoting this is those children that are prone to being a bully or being a victim of bullying are peculiar with BAME, Black and Asian minority ethnic groups, or migrants, or other children who are maybe disability or any other forms of things that people might want to see in them, and they, because they are different, they bully them. But as parents, we residing in this type of environment, we need to be aware, we need to know that the work, most of the work lies on our neck, because we need to really work with our young ones, especially if you have them in the secondary school or in the colleges. Because they will come home, they won't tell you what is happening. They won't tell you, especially boys, they like to bottle up. They like to internalize. And at times, girls as well, they internalize things. But as parents, we need to understand that our mind, our body, and our brain works together. In as much as things are going on in the brain of our children, but we are not following, we are not trying to find out what is happening, it is going to affect them. It is going to affect their thoughts, and it's going to affect their behavior as well. And sometimes, just like the previous lecturer of panelists have discussed, it gives them a lot of PTSD later in their life that they might not even think of now. They will tell you everything is all right. Mommy, I'm fine. Daddy, I'm fine. But at the end of the day, they will be having this flashback, which could affect them in any other things that they are doing in their life. So in a long and short of what I'm saying is, it is important for us as parents to know that because their brain is still developing, we need to be closer to them, to talk with them, interact with them, and let them know we are there for them. Whatever happens, wherever anything's happened, we need to stand and be with them at that moment. And because many of our young people, they suffer this low self-esteem because of due to one thing or the other, lack of confidence, because they find themselves, I'm the only one using the hijab in my class. I'm the only one that is Black. So some children will have low self-esteem due to this, and they will be feeling unhappy. They will tell you, I'm just going to take off my scarf. My parent is not here. But from home, by developing their confidence, they will be able to understand that, no, wherever I am there, and I need to carry on. So this is my own taking. Assalamu alaikum.
Jazakallah khairah. So for the little 1 minute or so that is left, I just want to talk about two things there. One is that children might mask the issues. So they might come around and smile and everything, but issues are beneath the surface. So we need to dig deep and find the time. Every one of us, we've mentioned about spending time with our kids, but what does that really mean in practical terms? How do you really achieve that? Is it at the bedtime they are going to bed, you want to spend the time with them, or when you are bringing them to, from school? My own experience is this. Every time I pick my children from school, they go to school by train. When they are coming back is when I get to understand what happens a lot from them. Like somebody mentioned that we shouldn't ask them closed questions. We actually need to understand that. Ask them questions that allows them to express themselves. If you ask how was school, they will say it's okay, or they say this, alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah, fine, but I need to know what actually happened. How do you get on during break time and things like that? That allows us to unpack what they are saying. We also need to get the priority right. What's the priority to us in terms of our children and our own career? At what time do you want to start to balance the career and the time we spend with our children? I think this is quite important. Our career is there for us to pursue, and we should do that to the best of our ability. But then there's a kind of a trade-off, and we need to, see which one do you want to, how do you want to balance it? We shouldn't have to take one for the other, but how do we really want to balance it? The other thing I'd like to mention quickly is that somebody mentioned that it does affect their performance, and I agree with you, it does, because I have a first-hand experience of that at home. My daughter, when she was getting to a school, she was full of enthusiasm. And at the end of our first year, we got the letter from the school, went to prepare, celebrate. But in our second year in the school, everything went down the deep and we were concerned. And then we start to find out what happened. It happens that she's being bullied. Started with lack of friendship and things like that. A lot of things that people have mentioned here. My point here is that you need to actually dig deep and spend time with them to really unpack what's happening. We need to recognize that our children go through a lot of things. And those things that they go through, they are mammoths in their mind. And what they go through might not be important to us. Because I had another experience of that. I asked her, so why is friendship important? Like one of our sisters mentioned, you could get on with your study, just forget about that. And she said, no, Daddy, you don't understand. And I said, what's it I don't understand? And he said, well, it's important to me to have friends. And I said, okay, I had to come down to our level and to try to understand, put myself in her shoes in order to understand what she was talking about. The last thing I'd like to mention before I stop is we need to build this support around our children. That support could be on multi-level. The home support is quite important from us as parents, but we might not be able to do it all. I think there's a theory that says that our children learn from us, but also from our society, from our environment. So let us look at what sort of type of support are there currently. Are they culturally specific for our students? Are they religiously in line for our children? Can they attain those support? My answer or my own feeling is that they are not culturally specific to them and they are not religiously okay for them at times. So that means that you and I as parents, we need to work doubly to get to build a kind of support round for our children. And this is one of the reasons why we are organizing this type of conference, so that we can have heart-to-heart talk. And you and I as parents, we can put our heads together, work together and say, look, this type of support is what we need for our children. Is it a website? Is it a phone line that they can tap into, they can call, that we, as you and I, we can share ideas? There's nothing wrong with also having a database of questions or frequently asked questions or approaches that has worked in different instances. We can do this anonymously. My take is that it's not something I alone can do. I can't solve that problem for my own children alone, but I need to take the lead. But I need the help of you and other people that are there that can think along in my own way. And I think with that, we work together, we'll be able to achieve that objective, inshallah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi. Thank you very much for all your contributions. I would have just stopped all contributions right now because we just got 1 or 2 minutes left. I would just like to call our attention to this. We'll be having a survey immediately after these discussions, and please fill it and submit immediately after the discussions. I would have stopped actually, but I got Sister Rashida here. If I didn't allow her just 1 minute, I may be having issues at home later on in the day. That's why I'm allowing her. Otherwise, I would have just canceled that. Please, for the question and answer, we got a few questions here. May I appeal to all our speakers, kindly attend to all the questions. Meanwhile, the mic is yours, Sister Rashida. Sister Rashida Hassan.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me now?
Alaikum salam.
Yeah, okay. Just as you said, there's only 1 minute, so I'm just going to make my contribution very straightforward. And what I want to say is that as parents, aside from everything we've been told today, I think it's very important for us to educate ourselves about some of the institutional racism and the unconscious bias that our children face. Because a lot of time the tendency is for us to, in our parenting, want to be the kind of parent that is not always supporting his or her child, because we want them to be respectful, because we would think, oh, if I think my child is right, then it's most possibly that I'll be seen as someone who is not willing for people to correct his or her child. But the truth is that in this country, our children do face a lot of unconscious bias, and they do face a lot of institutional racism. I'll just give one simple example, of this, and how we can actually do that. I remember, I'll give the example of a time my daughter came home. I think she was then in year 10 and year 9. And when they're going to year 10, they are told whether they will be doing double or triple science. Now, ordinarily, if not because I already, had I already had information about what it means for a child to do double science or for a child to do triple science, I possibly might not have been able to handle that particular situation the way I handled it. And what happened? She just came home. She was, looking very unhappy and all that. And I asked what happened. And she said, oh, I thought I was supposed to be doing a triple science based on my performance in school. But I have just been told today that I'm going to be doing double science. And to me, I didn't think much of it. I just said to her, I thought it's your ability. I'm sure you have been asked to do double science based on your ability, but not to worry. Let me find out, what does it mean to do double or triple science? So I actually asked her. She explained to me, and then I also went online. I found out about it. And then I thought, yes, this is something worth standing up for my child for. So what did I do? I wrote the school. I wrote the teacher in charge. And I said to them that I wanted to know why my child has been asked to do a triple science when she actually believed that she was meant to be doing she was meant to be doing a triple science, and she's being asked to do a double science. And the teacher replied to me that, oh, actually, we've allowed her to do, we're asking her to do double science because we think that is capability, and we always want to put our students in their comfort zone. We don't want to stress them, and I was told this explanation on the email. Now, I did not leave it at that. I decided to reply to the teachers in their own manner too. So I wrote them. I said to them that I appreciate what you have said. I think it's good, and I'm sure that you're looking out for the interest of the students. But I think that as teachers, your objective should be for your students to achieve the maximum they can achieve. So rather than put my child in a comfortable zone, I think you should give her a challenge. So if you think she's comfortable doing double science, then I think as a parent, with my understanding of education, that she should be given something that will take her out of her comfort zone so that she can be challenged. And if I did not make that move that day, and I did not, stand up for my child, I would not have been able to turn, that table. And it made a whole lot of difference to, the psyche of my child. Eventually, she was given a triple science. And incidentally, and that's another thing, when we do these things for our children, we also need to give them support, like everybody has been saying. We need to give them support, and we need to let them know they can do it. We need to let them know that they are as good as any other person. And, I think about a week or two after that, they had a science test in the school, and my child actually topped the class. In the whole of the year set, she topped the class in the physics, which they were not going to allow her to do because they wanted her to do double science. And it was very obvious because she said to me there were a lot, she actually believed she was given that she was made a double science student because of her skin color. Because she said to me there are students who she knows she's definitely better than, but were told to be triple science students. So this is just an example of the kind of things that our children face. These are institutional and unbiased racism. And as parents, if we do not understand it and we do not find a way of knowing how to deal with it, then we would, be putting our children at disadvantage. I'm sorry if I've taken more than 1 minute, but
you did actually. You did actually. I noticed that Alaja Dabiri, whom we called earlier, is back with us. Could you kindly unmute yourself and make your contributions. It's going to be just 2 minutes, please. 2 minutes, please.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Alaikum salam.
Now, alhamdulillah, thank you very much for allowing me in. I think from everything everybody has said, there is the other side that I feel we should look at coming to institutional racism or bullying. All along, we've been looking at bullying and racism amongst our children, between children to children. But the experience I have that, and I want us to pay attention to, is when the racism is with the teachers in the school. I don't think any one of us have thought about that racism or bullying is not only subject to the children amongst themselves. Sometimes it could be from the teachers that are meant to be looking after our children. And then I will probably advise, because of the time we have, what I would suggest to us as parents is, when our children comes home to us to tell us that they are experiencing any form of racism or bullying from a teacher, or they're being targeted by a teacher, yeah, just like African parents that we are, will say, oh, probably you've done something to the teacher, or probably you're not listening in class. So don't let us dismiss it. Let us be sensitive about it and find out what the facts are from our children. And then, so that way we'll be well prepared to approach the school. So we should not let it lie. We should not let it go. Otherwise, we will have a serious, it may have a serious impact on our children, which obviously, this I'm talking from experience of my own child. The bullying is not from the students, it's actually from the teachers. And not because of anything, it's because of a skin color. And if that is the case, this she can't do anything about. She's not a failing student. She's one of the best students in school. But why? Because she has a condition that will not allow her to go to school often, which the school are aware of it. But if teacher who was supposed to be supporting her are now picking on her, then what do we do about that? Where students, friends are supporting and the teacher are victimizing the students again because they are Black, and why are they supporting her? So I want us to probably have a rethink about bullying, because it's not only subjective to the children only, it could be from the institution itself, which obviously from research we've seen, bullying does occur in our schools from our teachers. For parents, what you need to do when it comes to this, obviously from what I've done, is that try to gather your own facts. Make sure you talk to your child. Take the case to the school. Yeah, it is always good to want to resolve it amicably, probably talk to the form tutors and stuff. If it's not working, then, like my other staff said, emails goes a long way to resolve things, and you have documentation of things. Email is what I did. I copied all the teachers in, copied all the head teacher, then I have answers. Talk to your child. Your child needs your support. When children are being bullied, home should be a safe haven for the child. But let us ask ourselves, from what we've been hearing right from the beginning of this conference, how many how many parents, how many of us have that safe haven of, the open communication link with our children, that our children can comfortably come to us and say, oh yeah, this is what I face at school. This is what is happening to me. This is how I feel. Let us try as much as possible to open this line of communication for our children so that they can come to us. And then sometimes another aspect that we in terms of institutional racism that obviously happen to our children is in terms of, yeah, they are Black children, they can take it on. They are strong. Yeah, go and deal with it. It doesn't work like that. Children are children everywhere, whether they are Black, white, any color. Their emotional well-being is very important. But if this is not dealt with, like we've heard, this could follow them into adulthood, and which could lead to complications in their own relationship, even with their own children, the way they will deal with their own children. So please, for Allah's sake, Don't let us dismiss when our children come to us to talk about what they are feeling. Don't let us just brush them aside. Let us take time to listen to them. And listening to our children should start from when they are young. Let us start listening. For those of us that still have children, babies, let us start from now to learn, to develop ability to communicate to our children and listen to them and be there for them and giving them that lots and lots of reassurance and comfort at the time that they actually need it the most. May Almighty Allah continue to safeguard our children and prevent them from any form of evil that comes with racism and bullying. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much. Well, it seems it was well dealt with and a lot more to be learned by all of us. I must acknowledge the contributions of Brother Tunji Owosheni. You indicated that you would like to speak again. I saw some of your questions there in the question and answer session. You kept it really alive. Thank you very much. I'm sure the questions will be dealt with by the speakers, inshallah. Once again, for the organizers, we shall have a survey that will be shared very soon. I'd like all of us to attempt the survey and submit it. Another contribution here, it says, very often we, the parents, are quick to dismiss these strengths with our cultural and religious standards. We need to be able to deconstruct these issues in a bit more detail and talk about them unabashedly with our children. We shouldn't just mince our words. We should be open to them. As noted by all the speakers, we need to communicate with our children. We need to ensure that we have cordial parent-children relationship. We can't always be right. We need to talk and listen. Don't be the only one talking. Don't make it a commandment from you to them. Listen to your children and look out for all those telltale signs, the call for assistance from our children. Let us build the trust in them. Examples have been cited from Prophet Ibrahim والسلام, Prophet Yusuf والسلام, and lots more. Here, we pray Allah Azza wa Jalla make our children Qurrata Uni to all of us. Also remember, when you are thinking of getting something from your children, that is prayer from your children, remember you can only get what you have given them. That Kamaru Bayani Sogira, that, oh Allah, bless my parents as they were blessings to me, as be kind to them as they were kind to me, be gentle with them as they were gentle to me. Let us learn to be gentle with our children. Let us learn understanding, and most important, my take home here today is that let us communicate. And when talking of communication, which happens to be my area, it's a matter of give and take. It's a matter of give and take. Thank you very much, all the contributors, all the speakers. I have learned a lot from the special package we have today, and also lots more to come, inshallah. I want to urge us all to please stay tuned, as we shall be having more of the programs. Today is the second day. We still have lots more tomorrow, inshallah. This is the panel discussion. We still have sister-only session from 6:30 to around 8:30, inshallah. Make sure you check the link and participate in this. May Allah Azza wa Jalla accept all our ibadah from all of us. Allahumma ameen. Do we still have more contributions or questions yet to be answered?
If I can make a point, I mean, before we go, I mean, it's been very interesting. One thing perhaps maybe I thought I should mention is that parents should know that, I mean, by law, particularly in relation to students, by law, all schools should have, I mean, policies in place. I mean, they must have measures in place to deal with bullying. And parents have a right to ask for that policy, to know what that policy is. Now, it's important, I mean, if you know that, so if you raise a question about bullying in any institution in the UK, they will not sweep it under the carpet, because by law, they must deal with it. I mean, so parents have every right to ask about what policy, what I need your bullying policy, and they will have to give it to you. So it's very important that we know this. So if you know the policy, you'll be able to know the procedure to follow when, I mean, there are complaints about bullying. Also, in relation to places of work, it's important also that, I mean, policies are in place. So people should not feel shy about actually by asking. I mean, people will know, I mean, they will know that you know your rights. And I mean, things will be done properly, particularly in relation to yourself or your children. So I just thought I should mention that.
Jazakumullah khaira jaza. I was actually bullied while I was in the primary school. So later on, I think it was in my second year in secondary school, most of the kids that I went to the primary school with, we moved together to the secondary school. And they never knew that I've started judo training. Alhamdulillah, I have my second belt, black belt in judo today. They never knew that I started judo training. They went on as usual, but until I was able to deal, and I picked from the topmost of them. I was able to deal with one of them who happened to beat me a lot. And after beating him, wallahi, Allah helped me. But how many of our kids will be so chanced to start judo or martial arts training? We need to help them. By helping them, we are helping in building our own future and great rest of mind, as well as a bigger, better community. May Allah Azza wa Jalla grant all of us success in this world and hereafter. Once again, it's never too much to say Jazakumullahu khaira jaza to all the contributors and special ones also to all our speakers. May Allah Azza wa Jalla be pleased with us and grant us success in this world and hereafter. Thank you very much for being a part of this. Make sure you check the links and participate in others. Till then, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.